he walking in these woods? Why, it's Little Red Riding Hood. Hey there, Little Red Riding Hood. You sure are looking good. You're everything a big bad wolf could want.
Listen to me.
Little Red Riding Hood.
Yeah.
I don't think little big girls should go walking in these spooky old woods.
Don't go walking in the spooky old woods alone. So, hello everybody. Getting together on the 5th night of October. You know, I always say it. Because it's one of those dates that will always be in my mind. October 5th, I don't forget the year. The year could have been 2010. Might have been 2010 or so, but October 5th was going to be the night that I went and I joined a Masonic lodge. Oh, it was a long time ago. A friend of mine said, "Hey, you want to join the lodge by me? It's really great. You get, you know, I mean, he showed me all the stuff. Like you get the, it's almost like retirement. They have their own medical facilities and all that shit, and it was just you can't shake all of the other stuff you read, and all the other stuff you know. And at that point, I wasn't really that I was just starting to really start doing big dives, and that was gonna be it. And I said, no, I want my $100 deposit back. It was just too much studying too. I said, I have to what? You have to read pages of shit in another language, and then you have to be blindfolded and walked with a toga into a room with a whole bunch of strangers, and they're going to put a dagger to your heart. I said, no. I can't, please. I don't have time for this. I got enough drama. I've got enough drama in my life already. But that was October 5th, I don't know, 12, 13 years ago. Good, because I needed the time to do other things. And here we are now. All that time I would have been studying an ancient language. Instead, I was broadcasting and, putting the time in. Everything that needs to be done to get something accomplished. Well, welcome to the show. Here we are tonight, and we're going to be having a great conversation with a great guest. Been waiting since June to speak with this woman, and she's got a really interesting resume. Her name is Kim Russo. We're going to go into all about her. That's KimTheHappyMedium.com. Her link is in the description. She's a psychic medium and has a really amazing television track record. Really entertaining stuff, but a lot of questions I have. I know she's the person to ask. It's going to be good. Want to talk about a lot of things, including growing up psychic. A lot of sixth sense kind of questions tonight, and she'll be joining us in just a little while. Will be a good time. Good time had for all. But in the meantime, we're going to jump into some other things that we have lined up over here in the grab bag and some other little ditties. Especially go and check out our wonderful sponsors. BlueMonsterPrep.com. We are going head first into the fall now, then into the winter. You never know what's going on, and then we are just stumbling, bumbling into 2024 in general. I would spend the next couple of months making sure that you, your friends, and anybody in your life that you knew was interested in starting to prep for one thing or another gets all of that out of the way and at least has a good foothold going into 2024, because you just never know about anything. So, independence, that's the big thing. Be independent. Make sure that your first aid kits are all stocked up on. I saw Peter McCullough put out I got to get into this a little bit more. I saw it on Zero Hedge. His wellness company, they put out a huge medicine cabinet, kind of a kit. Not the actual cabinet itself, but all of the prescribed, like antibiotics, things like that. I saw that he put out this entire thing, and he set up a company where you can get telemedicine, all the things that you would need to be able to set up your own emergency stock at home for you just don't know what is going to accompany the next emergency, especially if it's of a biological, it has any kind of biological aspect to it, element. So, plenty of things to think about. You know, one person that doesn't think, though, is that husk of a human being, Joe Biden. He came out, his battery power is very, very low right now. He's going down. Battery needs to be plugged in, but it just doesn't matter. It's a very, very worn out battery. And he wanted to announce that $9 billion more of student loan forgiveness has been accomplished. The Supreme Court be damned. Constitution be damned. Listen to this.
Today, I'm announcing my administration has approved an additional $9 billion in relief for 125,000 borrowers in just the past few weeks under that program. With the latest debt cancellation, in total, my administration has canceled $127 billion.
$127 billion of money that should have never been given out in the first place. That many other Americans who go out there and work, because you know what is tied to all these hundreds of billions of dollars, it's people with degrees that are not working for them. It's people with degrees that are not doing anything for them, okay? It was 4 years of fun in the sun trying to figure it out for $200,000. And this is why I say anybody that gives you any kind of lip about whatever happens in Congress, if they kick out a House Speaker or something like that, and they say this just creates unneeded chaos. How are we ever going to win an election again? What do elections matter? And who are you scared of pissing off? If the other side is, it's just 120-something billion dollars. Go ahead, don't pay it. I'm erasing that. Yeah, Supreme Court. Yeah, that's nice. That's nice. Nobody plays by any rules. Nobody has any kind of decorum. Everybody hates each other. So why are you scared that a couple of people actually put a thorn into the side of one of these company men? The hell with it all. So there's more money wasted, more money stolen. Here's another one for you. That psycho, Mayorkas, this guy's a psycho. You ever watch his body language, the physiognomy of the face, the eyes? He is a psycho of Patrick Bateman proportion. Anyway, he says that there is an acute and immediate need to build a border wall in Texas. In a stunning reversal of everything that was said over the last 7 years by the left, and just months after the Biden administration was caught selling portions of Trump's border wall on a government surplus website, DHS Secretary Alejandro Mayorkas is citing an acute, immediate need to waive dozens of federal laws in order to build a border wall in the South, in Texas, as the illegal immigration crisis grows utterly out of control. The Secretary of Homeland Security has determined pursuant to law that it is necessary to waive certain laws, regulations, and other legal requirements in order to ensure the expeditious construction of barriers and roads in the vicinity of the international land border in Starr County, Texas, reads a notice posted to the U.S. Federal Registry that Fox News obtained. Mayorkas found that there exists an acute and immediate need to construct a physical barrier, can't say wall, and roads in the vicinity of the border, the United States, and other prevent unlawful entries to the United States in project areas. You know what would be even cheaper? Starving all of the states of their block grant money. That is turning into programs for non-citizens. That's it. Once there is just no money to be had, there is not one morsel of food to be given, they will all flood back home. That's it. And that's where they will be flooding, to their actual home. Because what we're receiving right now, the millions that have come over in the last couple of years alone, have no connection emotionally to this country, never will, they don't care. It is merely a dinner bell that has been rung. That's it. That's it. It's just for every seriously, there's nothing going on there. So you can, I don't know, obviously there's an election coming up, election year in a couple of months here. So you start doing things like this to show that we're getting tough at the border and all that. It's all nonsense. It's all nonsense because this is about, they already let in a critical amount of people. There's already a critical mass that have been let in, and there is no real effort being made to get them out. So that's it. And so in related news, I got to go to this, studyfinds.org. Headline, American Apocalypse, 71% don't trust the U.S. government to prevent doomsday. Why would you trust them to do anything? That's like having faith that a disease will make you well. Why would you ever trust the government to do it? I mean, it's ridiculous. There you have it. So this, it's called a doomsday clock. We've been talking about that for a while. That was in 1947 they put it together to start scaring everybody about nuclear war. Well, now we have 71% to say that I don't think that the government can prevent it. Well, how can they prevent it? They're out there poking a nuclear bear in Ukraine, and they are facilitating an invasion of our homeland over here with not just Central and South Americans. That was the whole thing. They say, oh, it's very racist. You just don't want Latinos living next door to you. No, not true at all. Not true at all. But we know that people are coming from over 100 countries. It's just an all-out invasion. So, yeah, there's nothing to trust. Here's another thing, though, I think is really interesting. The last thing I'll say before we get into starting off our show. This is from AmericanThinker.com. Headline from October 2nd. Generation Z unable to comprehend cursive. Now, we've spoken about cursive, writing script, a lot in the show, and the importance of it, especially the benefit to the writer. It's one thing to be able to read cursive, because then, of course, as they're going to talk about here, you're going to be able to actually interpret so much of what has been left behind by older, wiser, pivotal generations. You think about everything, all the constitutional conventions, every letter that has been written between founding fathers. It's all, everything that we have of historical significance prior to what we would consider real modernity was written in cursive. So the fact that Gen Z is unable to comprehend it, let alone write it, and the benefits of writing in cursive are incredible, because, you know, it's not just like, okay, I'm going to write the letter A and it's one movement. The micro movements in manipulating a pen to even create one letter in cursive, it's almost, you can't count it. The coordination of the hand, the eye, putting the pen to paper, especially when you're writing down intentions, it's incredible. It's incredibly powerful, because it's taking something from your mind, an idea, a thought, a desire, something that you want, and letting it flow through you, through the hand to the pen to the paper. It's actually the first act of making something that is just ethereal, physical. I mean, it is a very, very, very powerful thing. So that's why I have letter writing tiers always, since I started opening up this show from sponsorship from the audience. I always had letter writing tiers. Now, there is a typewriter tier in there, and when time is really, really of the essence, I usually type just to be able to get everybody responses whenever I'm doing pen pal work. But sitting down and writing a letter is pivotal. Or Christmas cards, pivotal. I handwrite, obviously, all those postcards every month. Love it. And you need to. Anyway, it's sad. It appears Generation Z, born between 97 and 2012, never learned to read or write in cursive. This is from the Deseret News. With the development and prominence of technology, cursive has become increasingly obsolete. But what impact will that have for the future? According to The Atlantic, this means in the future, cursive will have to be taught to scholars the way that Elizabethan secretary hand or paleography is today. This directly impacts archival work. Many written documents from the 19th century and other earlier time periods are written in cursive. While it was once taken for granted that American students would know how to read cursive, now that cannot be the case. Archival work largely depends on the reader's ability to read hard-to-read text in shorthand and or cursive, Will this mean that universities will start having to offer college courses in history programs on how to read cursive? Only time will tell. It is a very significant story. This is not a matter of style. It's not a matter of just, things changing and, we're going from one sense of fashion to the next. And this is very significant. You're talking about generational divides. They're already marked in different ways. But now you're talking about a really significant lopping off. You're going to now be dependent on somebody else to interpret what somebody has written. You know how dangerous that is, right? You know how dangerous that is, especially since anything that happened before 2008 is considered BC in this country. In fact, I heard in Canada, there were some libraries or something. I don't know how big the organization was, but even if it's insignificant, you know that it really is a reflection on other problems that are bubbling in a much greater degree. Talking about banning books or limiting the amounts of books that are available that were published before 2008. Now, I always made the joke over here that in prior to the Obama administration, everything was just a dark ages wasteland. That's what they want you to believe. But if we lose cursive, man, that is really significant. Some educators say that the advent of Common Core is largely to blame for Gen Z being unable to fathom cursive, but there is more to it than that. Cursive writing, like calligraphy, though obviously to a lesser extent, requires much practice and patience, a focused and steady mind and hand, and writing implement instead of a keyboard or a screen. These are all things in short supply today. Yeah, especially patience. Especially patience. An article in the NEA, Cindy Long noted that many studies have shown that learning cursive not only improves retention and comprehension, it engages the brain on a deep level as students learn to join letters in continuous flow. She added it also enhances the fine motor dexterity and gives children a better idea of how words work in combination. Yep. Yes. Retention. Because you actually made it physical, and it was your responsibility to make it physical. And that's why we'd always say, our teachers would say, write something down and rewrite it. If you do it a couple of times, it will stick. You've actually been physically bound to that thought, at least for a while. Obviously, everything can get washed away like cursive on sand right there on the shoreline. But keep that in mind and become a, quite frankly, pen pal. I guess that's what I'm really getting around to. All right, we'll be right back. Kim Russo is our guest, and I cannot wait to jump into this one. So, share the show. Wherever you know, share the show. Wherever you know to share, go ahead. Be right back.
You let one ant stand up to us, then they all might stand up.
Those puny little ants outnumber us 100 to 1. And if they ever figure that out, there goes our way of life.
It's not about food. It's about keeping those ants in line. That's why we're going back.
Does anybody else want to stay?
Let's ride!
Put it in pocket till I get back. Going downtown, see a man, and I ain't got time. Shake
all right.
Your hand. Hit that job, Jack. Put it in pocket till I get back. Time and
Ladies
time,
and
wait
gentlemen.
for no man, and I ain't got time. Shake your hand. Hit that job,
So I have another thing for you.
Put it in pocket
Hold
till
on, let me get that down. Move this out. Whoops-a-daisy. There we go. What I'm going to be doing in the second half of the show, whatever's left of it, because I really want to take my time with Kim here and ask some really great questions, and we'll see where that all goes. But in the second half, there is at least one thing, aside from getting all of your thoughts, your opinions, your questions, I want to do, and that was a little fun thing that I threw out there after last night's show ended. And you know how they had the emergency broadcast system that did their thing yesterday? They sent out a text message to everybody in the country. Well, I asked the question last night as soon as I signed off over here. If you had control of the emergency broadcast system text messenger system, that whole program, if you had control of that, then what would you send out as a text message if you knew the entire country was going to get it? And I got some really great responses. I knew it was going to. I had to brace myself because it was going to be a range of things. And so in the second half, I will run through a few of those to end the show, and we'll take some calls. Also, I will be mindful of the Super Chats as they come in tonight. Especially if there's something that you want to try to get through to Kim Russo while we're speaking with her. I've got a lot over here, so I'll see what I can finagle. But if you want to send some stuff over, some thoughts, even if it's just to be read after the fact, after the intermission, you can go to quitefranklysuperchat.com. That is the universal super chat for everybody, no matter where you're watching at 7 o'clock. Or even if it's after the fact, you can always leave me a message there overnight. We're also developing some sort of a voicemail idea that we want to bring to fruition, so that people can leave voicemails and that we can play certain voice in the mails on the show the next day. So I'll let you know what happens with that, because that should be fairly simple to put together. I think that there's a voicemail option that I can activate on Zoom. So we'll get that all going. Anyway, quitefranklysuperchat.com, and of course those Rumble rants and the gold pills on quitefrankly.tv, powered by the great Foxhole. And I hope more and more of you are going to Foxhole and hanging out there on the website, because that is as independent as it gets. And that's the way we got to go. All right, so tonight's guest, her name is Kim Russo. Let me get her up on the screen here. Hold on. There she is. Kim Russo, also known as the Happy Medium. She is originally from Long Island, New York, native, so it's going to sound like just two homebrews talking a little while. I got to speak with Kim a little bit before the show. Mom of 3, married for 33 years, has her own television show. Actually, she's been on so many television shows, but she had her own, including The Haunting of, which was the #1 show on the Lifetime movie network, and A&E's Psychic Intervention. In fact, I went and I started watching some of the Haunting of episodes on YouTube. Hope that we can slip some of those into the rotation on our Halloween programming on quitefrankly.tv, because there's some really great stuff there, especially some interesting mix of celebrity haunting stories that are in there too. But she has appeared on countless television shows, including Real Housewives of New York, Celebrity Ghost Stories, Paranormal State, Psychic Kids, and many, many talk shows. Many talk shows. And now tonight's going to be another one. Another prolific talk show, quite frankly. She's worked professionally as a psychic medium for over 20 years. But obviously her history with this goes back before that, and I want to get to the beginning. Her first book, #1 seller on Amazon, The Happy Medium, was published by HarperCollins in 2016. Second one is out now, Your Soul Purpose. Learn how to access the light within. So I am just so happy to welcome to the show Kim Russo. Welcome, Kim. How you feeling?
Very good. How are you feeling?
I'm doing well. I'm up over here in New York. It's starting to get a little bit more fall, a little bit more spooky. Obviously, you are soaking in the rays and will do for the rest of the year, and you won't be affected by any of this. Do you still get spooky down there in Florida?
I miss the fall. New York, there's nothing like New York in the fall. No, holidays don't feel like holidays here because of the weather. Christmas doesn't feel like Christmas. So Yeah, I do come back to New York to experience the the Halloween season. There's nothing like it with the
Yep.
pumpkins. They don't do a big thing down here.
No, yeah, no, you need, for me, you need the foliage. Maybe it's just because of where you come from. You just associate certain things. The cold in December is necessary. I like. The Corona. You remember the old Corona commercials where they put the Christmas lights on the palm tree. I always like, okay, well, that's nice. You can see people do things from where they're from, but the Christmas lights on a palm tree doesn't do it for me. No, it doesn't.
It doesn't. Inside my home is very New York. Only New Yorkers know what this means, or Northerners. You don't know. I blast the air conditioner, and you think you're home. So that's as close as I'll get. But
well,
it's in my heart. New York is always in my heart.
Well, it's great to have you back. It feels like you're just a couple of blocks away. And I wanted to start off with with your background, the life of a medium. It's very interesting to me. And is this something that you've had with you your whole life? Because it says you've been working for 20 years professionally, but what was going on before that?
Oh, yeah, over 20 years now. But this whole journey was broken up in childhood, where the ghosts were standing at the foot of my bed, the spirits. And that continued until my early teenage years. Then everything was back to normal. I was an average teenager, dating, having fun with my friends, didn't see anything, hear anything. I think I was always intuitive, though. That's different, though. And then after my third son was born, I feel as if my soul mission needed to be realized. And I didn't know that, but they reminded me very quickly. This is when the spirits that were at the foot of my bed and the ones that wanted to get my attention as a child started coming back, but this time they had a voice. I was hearing things. I was seeing things. I was blow drying my hair or vacuuming. Whenever I was doing like very mundane tasks, I would start to hear, literally in my own thoughts, hi, I died in a fire. Tell my mom I'm okay. And I'm like, what? What? I really was not buying any of it. I really thought I was going crazy, insane. It was not similar to my childhood experiences. This was very different. So it was as if it was happening to me all over for the first time. And I hadn't really thought about my childhood experiences ever since. I thought maybe those were figments of my imagination. I now know, of course, they were not, because they would keep me up terrified as a 5-6-year-old under the covers.
I can imagine.
It was really, a lot of people email me now that their children have these same experiences. They can feel people in their room. They see people in their room. And I tell them, please do not discount it. My parents did believe me. They never made me feel like I was crazy or that I didn't see what I said I saw. So that is very important.
Oh, sorry.
I'm sorry. The veil between the two worlds, they say on Halloween, is the thinnest. But in a medium's world, it's always a very thin veil between the two worlds.
So then I guess that brings up two questions. The question about gifted children. I mean, The Sixth Sense is one of those films that usually pops up in conversation when you talk about experiences like that. But it must be very scary to be a child and having no context for what you're seeing, and of course not being able to even control your abilities if there's anything to control. But like you said, it's very odd that it disappeared. You said it disappeared for a large portion of your life and only came back after your third child was born, right?
Right. We had decided that was the last child we were having. And when he was an infant and I would put him down for a nap, and I would start doing my chores. My other two children were in school. The activity in my home was just off the charts. there was one time where, and this is, it almost sounds unreal, but I was making my bed. And I'll never forget, it was September because the kids had just gone back to school and I was kicking my heels. And my little guy was in for a nap, and I had a lot of throw pillows at the time making my bed. And I remember turning my body to pick up the pillow off the floor and put it on the bed. And I saw a silhouette of a girl in the door jamb of my bedroom. And it was just a silhouette. And mentally, the words I heard in my mind, and I heard, hi, I can't recall her name at the time. I didn't write it down, but she told me her name, and she told me she died in a fire and she even told me the town in New Jersey. And if you were to just think to yourself right now, I have to go do the laundry. That thought, the way you hear those words, I have to go to do the laundry, that's how I heard her speaking to me. They were with my own thoughts. And I'm like, wait. I blinked my eyes, and she turned her head, and on one side of her face I can see it was charcoal. She died in a fire.
So she looked...
chose to show me this. It wasn't the actual body, obviously, but it was the spirit body.
But she was still presenting to you as a person who had been burned.
Yes, on one side of her face.
That's horrifying.
Well, this was how the journey started up again for me, and it was horrifying. And I remember talking about this experience. I told my husband. I had called a friend because there's a little bit of a backstory prior to this, but it's too long to explain. I wrote all about it in my books. And the friend was a medium. And I needed to call her and find out what to do. And she said, well, Kim, something is opening up and they want your attention, and they know you can see them and hear them. I never contacted her family. It was just one of those things. I let it go, and I never forgot it. It terrified me. But then it just hasn't stopped since. And I don't typically get horrific, visions like that anymore. But the whole process developed in such a way that when I do a reading now, I become the person I'm reading. So that I can go into the mind and I can feel everything they're feeling, thinking the way they think. It's very bizarre, but it's evolved into that type of connection when I do readings now. So
is that when you say when your friend that you sought some counsel with says they know that you can see them, and it almost reminds me of that the movie Ghost, when Oda Mae Brown, when Whoopi Goldberg is obviously scamming people at her little place. People are coming and they want to contact their family and friends, and she knows, at least at the beginning, she's scamming people. Then all of a sudden, the ghost of Sam Wheat shows up, and she hears a voice, and it's like, what is that? It's like a buoy, like what? I guess there had to be a change if you became a beacon for all of this at that point, but. Remote viewers that I've talked to, interviewed on this show, they say that anyone can do remote viewing. And the same for the friends of mine who've come on to talk about out-of-body experiences, astral travel. Is it possible for anyone to do what you do with technical guidance and practice? Or is it something that just has to come alive in you, like it happened to you?
I believe for the most part, everyone can transcend their consciousness and have that consciousness travel, as in remote viewers. It is a technique like any other technique that you have to learn. If you want to be proficient in playing the violin or an instrument, you need to practice. Do I believe anybody could do this? Yes, but certain people are on the fast track to having something in their aura open up. For me, I learned later on in life that it was because I was electrocuted at a young age.
Oh.
all due to my own curiosity. As a little girl, I was underneath the Christmas tree on Christmas Eve, and there was a safety pin on the floor. And I'll never forget, I was watching The Munsters, how apropos.
Yeah.
That was my favorite show. And I said to myself, well, I wonder what will happen if I plug this pin in the electrical outlet.
Of course.
And I did. I shot across the room. My whole arm here, my forearm, which you can see now has no scarring, it was charcoal. My mom, all my aunts were over cooking the big Italian fish dinner. So they were all in the kitchen. They dropped everything, called the doctor. Doctor said, in those days, bring her to my office. I'll meet you there. He looked at it, wrapped it up with this ointment, Silvadene, said, I can't guarantee she's going to, not have any burns or scars, but leave this ointment on and however many weeks, take it off, or days, I don't remember. Never had any scarring. Years later, when I was seeing that girl in my room and with the burnt face, I went to the public library. They didn't have much on the internet back then. We had encyclopedias. I'm showing my age. And I went to the library. I said, something has to be with this. And I picked up a book randomly. I went into the paranormal section, the New Age section, and there were all these old type books, like, the sisters that levitate and all that. And I opened up a book called The Link, Link. And I turned to this page just randomly, and I just said, let me see if this is a book that I want to take out of the library. And the paragraph that I read said, most mediums have found that in many cases, they were hit with high doses of electricity at a very young age, before the age of 10. And it quickly brought me back to the time where I did that. And it said in the book that something opened up in my aura. Now, I know a lot of near-death experience people have come back with developed gifts when they say they touched heaven's vibration. People who have had trauma, head traumas or accidents, come back with gifts, which I just chalk it up to something opened up in the auric field, which is allowing the connection between the two worlds. That's really the best way I feel to explain this.
So there's a way for someone to be obviously just born on a fast track. Then there are things that can happen to you to almost like supercharge your development. And then there is just technique and research and practice. And there is a way to become a little bit more proficient in the practice.
Yes, I don't recommend anybody putting a pin in the outlets.
Right.
Of course. But, by chance, I guess that's how they found electricity and all these other inventions. It was by chance that this happened to me. But now here's another interesting fact. This runs on my father's side of the family. None of my cousins choose to do this for a living, but they all can. My father's sister is a very famous healer back in her country, and people would come from all over the countryside to have her pray over their children who were sick. So she has it a little bit in a different way. But again, I do believe that this would have been my destiny, but somehow it was sped up.
Let me ask you this. Now, there's two questions that come to mind now. First one is with children as well. Have you ever been called in to take up a case of a gifted child or anything like that who feels helpless and haunted? That it's becoming very traumatizing, and you say, listen, hey, Kim, I think something legitimate is happening with my son or my daughter. Can you come and talk to them and give them some kind of guidance as to what they're seeing and how to deal with it? Because how do you make it go away? Is it something that you can make go away? Can you say, I completely forsake this ability of mine. I don't want to see the dead anymore in my room. Is that possible, or is this something that you just have to learn to live with?
Well, yes, I've helped many people, many children. I've gone to many homes. First thing I'd like to do is see what energetically what are these children dealing with, or what's trying to get their attention. That's number one, because there can be some lower level entities that prey mostly on innocent children, and children that have not been indoctrinated by the world yet, aka mothers and fathers and teachers telling them ghosts are not real, that it's just make believe. But that's why pets also, like cats are very psychic. Dogs can see spirits. They're not indoctrinated. They're pure spirits. So the children are pure. And if there really are threatening entities, that's the first thing I would like to know. So I'll always go there, do an assessment. I don't really do this as much anymore with the assessments. I don't have time. But there are so many psychic children that so many people are asking me to write a book, and I just might do that for the children. I touched on it in the Happy Medium book. I give some techniques for mothers to teach their children and for the children to try it. It's no different than being bullied in a schoolyard, and the child has to learn how to stick up for themselves.
Okay.
It's like a free will, asserting your power, asserting your energy, and sometimes even finding out what that entity, or well, I call it an entity, but it could be their like deceased grandparents for real, and they just don't know it, because they're always watching over us. And that's a big misconception where people mistake hearing thumps in the night. Sometimes that really can be your relatives just checking in on you. And they sometimes can be a little bit loud and noisy.
I would like to believe that it is just a thump in the night, Kim, because that's I'm telling you, though. So what does that mean about, see, and this is where I'm sure we're going to get into this, where there's probably going to be a lot of pushback from people who have different ideas and different beliefs about what the afterlife is and what the nature of the soul is, and whether or not this is implicating that we aren't ascended to another place, but just kind of stuck and walking around and watching the living live their lives. That kind of sounds like a I don't know what that means. But let's get to skepticism for a second, because I know proof is a big thing for you and for anybody, especially for a New Yorker. Not only is every person who works with you comes to you for a reading looking for undeniable signs that your abilities are authentic, but I'm sure that you yourself want to know if you're in the zone or if you're just imagining things. So what did it take for you to say, this is real, I'm tapped in, and I can verify this?
Oh, great questions. It's like you're in my head. I did readings for people for 1 whole year without charging anyone. They were complete strangers. I would only read strangers, by the way, people that I knew nothing about. And how that would happen was it was just word of mouth. So I started with one person that was in my town. Long story short, I was sitting in a diner, and I was with that medium friend of mine. Right next to me was a couple sitting there, husband and a wife. And the name Faye kept coming to me. I kept hearing it. And I kept being pulled, like drawn to that table. So I told my girlfriend, I said, there's somebody here for those people. And she said, well, if you don't tell them, I will. Because I told you need to deliver these messages. So I didn't really want to do it. They were enjoying their meal. I didn't want to get involved. But she opened her mouth and she said, excuse me, my friend here is a medium, and she sees someone around you named Faye. The woman grabbed her heart. She lost her breath. And she said, that's my son. So I said, Faye is your son? That's a woman's name. And she said, no. She said, I was married twice. That's my son's last name. Because I had told her it's somebody who's trying to come through from the other side with the name Faye. And I said it was a male. And then she just attributed to it being her son. And then I gave her another piece of information. They looked at me as if to say, who is this witch, this woman? What is this? Is this the husband even said to me, is this some sort of, demented joke? I said, no, it's really not. I'm so sorry. I said, but I do have this ability and I live in East Meadow. And I gave her my phone number. She asked me if I would do a reading for her. And that was the first reading I did after this was tested by my other friend. And from that woman, her whole family made appointments with me anonymously, but I knew it was them. And then from there, it was just word of mouth from all those people. And I read for 1 whole year, trying to see if this was pure luck or if it would just continue and I will just keep getting it right. And I needed to learn to trust the information that was coming through, because my ego would tend to get in the way. Like, I didn't want to disappoint anyone, and I certainly didn't want to come across as a fraud, because that was not ever my intention. So I figured if I didn't charge anyone, they had nothing to lose. There's no way I was scamming them, because they're not giving me anything. It was just taking some time away from them.
Right.
And that made me feel better. It allowed me to relax. And if I messed up, I messed up. No skin off their nose. After about a year, and my phone ringing off the hook through dinner, through every part of my life, my husband was getting agitated, and he said, listen, this can't go on, the phone is ringing throughout the day, night, and everything. So I said, well, I think I have to hire someone to take my calls. And he said, well, I'll do it. When I get home from work, I'll do the calling. I'll call back people. And then he said, do you really think that you should be doing this for free? It's taking up a lot of your time and your energy. And I agreed, and I was comfortable at that time with the gift and proving after a year's worth of readings that there's no way I would know what I knew continuously.
Right.
So that's how I did that to prove it to myself.
Well, I guess what you would really have to do in your position, especially like there's no better business bureau for psychics, so you have to, it has to be something that at least builds confidence. And obviously things like the entire family doing anonymous readings with you is most definitely, at least in some way, everybody cross-checking to see what kind of results they got and whatever, and if it only kept growing, then it means that there's something of value there. Now, when you receive, in what way do you receive and even transmit messages? Because you said before, the thought of, okay, I have to go do the laundry, that is the way that you heard the little girl who had died in the fire. But is it English that always comes through? I have to imagine that not every spirit you have been in contact with was an English speaker in life. So how does that work? And do they hear you through thoughts just as you hear them?
Yes, because thoughts and feelings are universal language. Even before any language was invented, we communicated with, facial expressions, and we could tell through the eyes what we're feeling, each other's feeling. But that's another great question, because what I have learned over the years was when someone spoke another language, the way that they would communicate with me in a reading was through showing me what looks like a film, like those 8mm films in my mind, like I'm watching a movie, and I could see the different frames of the film, just like that, and I can see what's happening in each frame. And I learned that it's easier for me to understand the movie and to just interpret the movie than to try to understand what they're saying. But I will understand a lot of foreign language in the background. Some I will recognize, like Italian and Spanish, I do recognize. A lot of the times, if it's a language I never heard, I'll just say they're speaking a different language. I cannot make out what this is. It's the ancestors with them coming through. But the movie is what I interpret. So it's more clairvoyance. It's the visual part of my gift that is used when it's another language.
Got you.
And feelings too. Like I can feel love, I can feel sadness, I can feel what they're feeling, and I will interpret that as well. A lot of the times when they try to tell me how they passed on or what were the last moments of death for them, they literally bring me through that experience, whereas I become the person dying. And I get these like quick hits in my body where I'll feel like if it's a heart attack, or a shortness of breath, I'll get like a quick hit of a shortness of breath. And those are just psychic symbols. They're not real shortnesses of breath and ailments for me.
So is everybody, in your experience, is everybody accompanied? Like I was raised with the belief that everyone has at least one guardian angel. Is there any, if you really wanted to zero in on somebody, is there always someone or something with them?
Always. We don't come to... Earth is like going on an expedition, like going to the moon. Coming to this planet there's no handbook, and we have one main guide. This is what I've learned. And that guide stays with us just as the main person. Then you get all these little different guides that come in as you're learning new things. And if you want to become proficient in the medical field, you'll attract medical guides or doctors that used to operate, and they'll sort of, the guides go to people who have a similar path than they had when they were alive. That's the only way that they can guide them through.
So it's not necessarily somebody that you knew.
Nope.
Okay.
That's people think that. You can absolutely have your loved relatives, like your grandparents and whatnot, guide you in certain situations. But they're not, if you think about the knowledge they had, and they're not always so equipped, like the extent of their knowledge in their thought process and their consciousness is most likely what it was when they were here. Not to say they didn't learn a lot of things when they got to the other side, but they're not always equipped to teach and guide the path that you as a soul have chosen. But the person who did have that experience in life is well equipped, and that helps that person raise their frequency. So if they didn't get it right in their own life, but once they got to the other side, they're like, wow, I wish I would have known this when I was there. Mm-hmm. Things would have been different. They can literally sign up for guide status to guide someone. And it's pretty cool the way that works.
Just to put in a like a work form, or
yep.
just a
requisition to be guide.
Something.
Yep.
I mean, well, what about you? Do you ever read for yourself? Who's always tagging along with you? Is it one of those things that you can dial up a specific family member and get a piece of information, a memory, anything that you've ever wanted, a gap in family history that you knew that someone in particular would have known in life, but they're not around to tell you anymore? That would be another really great way for me to proving what I'm taking back from the other side is authentic there too, especially if there's any gaps in family history.
Yeah. Oh, well, I have this cousin that when she was alive, she passed from COVID, but we didn't need words. I was in Florida, she was in New York, and we would communicate constantly. I would call her and say, you called? And she really didn't call physically, but she called me with her mind. That's one. So I have helped other families connect the dots. There was a girl I read once, and she was really hoping to hear from her mom, and that's the only reason she came to see me. And everything resonated, everything sounded correct. It did sound like her mom, but she was very disappointed when she left, and she said, that's not my mom's name. I said, I'm so sorry, but that's what she's telling me. I can't change it. She's like, well, something's weird, and I don't know how to make sense of it, but maybe you have your wires crossed. I said, well, maybe. I think I didn't charge her either. I think I let her go, and like, you know, she seemed upset. She called the following week. Her sister called and wanted an appointment. And my husband makes my appointments. And she said to my husband that her sister never knew that her mother's real name on her birth certificate was the name I was giving her.
Wow.
And I have found since that they typically come through with their birth given names, even if they were known as a nickname. The birth given name holds energy to it, and it's attached to the soul. And you pick that name, and it has a frequency. So you're Frank, but you know, I might read another Frank, and everything connected to that Frank is different because of the frequency of that soul. So yeah, I've connected many dots. Some there was one idea where they wanted they wanted me to do a show about missing ingredients of you know, dialing Nonna from the dead to get the missing ingredients in a recipe. And I was like, well, I have done that, but that's a bit much.
Yeah, I was going to well, you know, recipes aside, you touched on something that I wanted to talk about, and that would be inherent dangers. And I have a couple of questions about this, because obviously any tool, any ability can be misused and become counterproductive. And aside from, I have some related questions to this later on, but as far as grief goes, it is human grief. It's such a delicate, messy thing. And we did a whole show on grief back in August. And so I guess the question is there any cases that you won't take because a person is just not in a good enough position to even handle the idea of like levels of desperation, anything like that? I mean, I know we're in a, maybe just, I don't know. Here's the thing. Right now we're seeing things like AI come in and fill the gaps for some people. Would be like if they lost someone that they love. For most people, they just need time, maybe some prayer, healthy routines, and slowly you can put yourself back together. You can move on, and you can get on with life, though you always miss and love that person. Others have gone to psychic mediums like yourself to try to get some closure and all that. But now we're getting into this age where I read these stories of AI, where people are putting together these programs that are, the machines are generating the likeness of dead family members and friends based on how they used to text and post on social media, and they're trying to give grieving people outlets for comfort in really disturbing, macabre ways. And I don't know, maybe you can just comment on grief in general, because everybody's looking for an outlet for that. And I don't know, I guess there's a question in there somewhere, but it's just grief. Go ahead.
Well, that's very creepy. I didn't even know that.
Oh,
I know
and more.
AI is, you know, doing ridiculous things, but generating grief solutions is just, there's no replacement for the human spirit whatsoever. And yeah, there are times where there's a grief-stricken, desperate person, and I know, as a professional, they won't even hear what I'm saying in that time. So it's not the right time. I won't read them. They won't even hear me. So it won't even make a difference. The things that make a difference, because I'm not big on, oh yeah, you know, your mother loves you and she misses you, and just the general stuff. I always want a message, and I'm pretty strict with that. I have criteria for the other side. It's like, listen, you're showing up, they have a need. I don't know what their need is, because everybody grieves differently. Who has guilt, who has things they never said, you know, closure, and all kinds of reasons people don't sleep at night after a loved one passes. And especially reading parents who lost children, that's heart-wrenching. Mm-hmm. But what I find over and over and over is they get what they need, not necessarily what they want to hear. but what they need to hear. And for some reason, the spirit world knows how their loved one thinks and what they need. Because each person I read, it's not cookie cutter. It's always different. Whether it be, don't blame yourself, I needed to go when I went, or it's, I was not in pain when I passed, even though it looked like I was. God gave me his grace. And whatever it is, there's always a healing, comforting answer. There's always a question and an answer. And I do feel, and this is what I teach my students, it's like therapy, but it's spiritual therapy. They're coming for a reason. And you need to zone in on where is the blockage that's not allowing them to move forward. I mean, death just needs time, number one. Mm-hmm. But I have had many instances where something as simple as the most simplest thing I said, in my mind, would think it didn't mean much, but it was literally perhaps the code word that they were looking for from their dead relative, that I've had just so many emails over the years telling me I was finally able to sleep at night. It did not bring them back, but it brought them back for the moment, and I know it was real in my heart. So it will resonate. I don't know if AI would resonate with the human spirit.
Oh, it definitely wouldn't. That's what I'm saying.
But true messages resonate.
Yeah. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. We're always seeing evidence that there are people out that we are in great need. People want to have some sort of a pacifier. Everybody's going through a lot. And that's just the way it is. But you can just tell that there are more and more things being concocted to give people some kind of a numbing agent, and some of it is getting more and more creepy. I mean, between all the sex dolls to replace relationships, and talking to AI to replace other even platonic relationships, just to have a friend. It's very, very weird, this relationship between man and machine, and that's, I just think about that dichotomy between what you do and what people are trying to leave behind now for newer generations. But you're talking about the messages that need to come through. I know you're the happy medium, but does any bad news ever come from the other side? We're not living in happy times per se, and a lot of death is unexpected and untimely. So how do you keep things positive without slipping into the hopium trap that everything is fine? So there must be some things that you have to find a very delicate way of telling somebody some unfriendly truths. Oh
yeah, I do. I've said many things that, again, they might not have wanted to hear, but they needed to hear. Most of the time, though, and this is something I've learned as well. When we inhabit this body here on Earth, it's there's so many illusions that take place. There's so many programs probably came from all the machines and the thought processes that we've been taught. And none of that's really real. The only thing that's real is love, honestly, and unconditional love, and love that cannot be destroyed by physical death. And that is the biggest message that they come through with. Anything they suffered in life. I'll give you an example, because I love giving examples. Suicide people, suicide victims, they come through. And that's not a pleasant topic to discuss. It's unnatural, number one. A lot of religions teach against it. And the laws of the universe, the law of balance, also teaches that you shouldn't take you shouldn't take your own life. However, what would be a positive spin on it is, and again, I'm learning every time I read, the positive spin is, I'm not in hell. When they come through, they'll say, I'm not in hell. I'm not being held accountable for this because I was mentally ill. I had an illness just like any other illness, and I didn't seek treatment for it, or I didn't get the proper treatment for it. Or in a lot of cases, believe it or not, the medicines that doctors prescribe as these antidepressants very often work the opposite in young children that create these manic thoughts and actions. So when the truth comes out, like, wow, that's an uncomfortable truth, but nonetheless, it makes me see it a little bit differently from their perspective, that they are of clear mind now. They're not in the physical body with all the toxins and all the, programs. They're free and clear. They're just a free soul now, able to just be love and go back to source, which is love. That is a negative becoming a positive, but that's a universal truth of our soul. So I very often have to teach deprogramming to the people I read. And I don't teach it, the souls coming through teach it. Because what they say is, this is not our natural state. Leaving the body, we become our natural state. But there has to be a time for us to leave, not just, we can't just randomly when we feel like it. But when that happens, a lot of the times it's because of desperation, mental illness, so on and so forth. So that's one thing, that's the best example I can give you. It's it gets to the heart of the matter. Like, wow, it's a different perception. It's a different way of looking at the way the soul looks at it.
Mm-hmm. We just did a show last week with Dr. Eben Alexander, who was he's a neurosurgeon who back in 2008 suffered he was a brain infection that put him in a coma for a week. No brain activity, he had a 2% chance of surviving, not even enough brain activity to power a dream. So what he did was he was on the other side for a week. And when he came back, he was met by skeptical, fellow neurosurgeon friends of his, but I have to imagine it wouldn't be hard for him to convince someone like you of what is out there. And what he described is incredible, and of course a lot along the same lines of what you're describing right now. But have you ever been called in to debrief someone who is fresh off of a near-death experience to try to make sense of the things that they saw? And obviously it's probably a little bit one of those things where if you had one of those experiences, you would really pick and choose very carefully who you told about it, because you wouldn't want to seem crazy. So have you ever been chosen as a person to debrief them on their travel back to our world?
I know Dr. Alexander. I know his story, and it's quite amazing. I've never been called to debrief anyone that way. Okay. However, I study near-death experience. It's one of my fascinations, and they all have a similar story to tell, and I do compare it to when I channel the other side, and it's to a T. It's exact. There's an animal kingdom there, the same way we have an animal kingdom here. The difference is the lions and tigers and bears do not need to eat each other to survive, so they are coexisting very nicely on the other side. They lay down with each other. They run in the open green fields. There's colors there that I've never seen here when I do a reading. Usually when the children come, or the animals, is when I see exact depictions of what it looks like where they are. All others, I set up a room with no walls so that I don't get distracted, because then there's just too much background and too many people show up in a reading from a family line. So I just make it easy. But when the children come through, they always show me the playgrounds and the beautiful scenery, and the pets show me the same thing. So those come from the innocence. And yeah, I like to compare the notes for sure. And
you're just talking about the children coming through. A lot of people will say that if there is an elderly member of their family that has passed on, they die, and they are I don't know, there's some sort of an after-death communication after the fact, that is, they seem to be restored to perfect health. Maybe they seem a little bit younger, a little bit more, somewhere around middle age, but they're not old and infirmed and unable to walk, and the way that they were at the very, very end. What about children? Do children remain children, or do they mature to some sort of what they would have been like around middle age? Because if we're talking about the eternal soul, then to be reflected just by this little snapshot of what they were on Earth forever in eternity sounds a little bit, I don't know, like a little weird. I wouldn't want to be a 5-year-old forever. I'd like to be maybe a 25-year-old forever. So how does that work?
Yeah. Okay, so the elderly and infirmed will only come across to me showing me, like, just for an example, if they had their legs amputated and they were in a wheelchair, just for the purposes of identifying who they are, they'll show themselves in that moment just to identify them, and in the next moment they'll show themselves dancing. So the way that I would interpret that is, I have my legs back. I am dancing. I am not restricted. Now,
complete.
It depends when I read the child that crossed over. If I read the parent 20 years after the child passed over, they literally will show up as a man or a woman 20 years later.
Wow.
Literally. They grow in spirit. And I'll tell you what I've learned. Their loved one, as a psychology, they would like to know that they're still with the family. They're still growing, and the person, the man that they are, the parents want to know that. That makes them feel better. I didn't know that until these children started coming through and saying, tell my mom what I look like. And I will describe the adult that they are, and the parent will say, wow, they died when they were 8 months old. Now, I don't know that, but I have to honor the spirit coming through, wanting the parent to know. I would say, he looks like he might be about 25 years old. And indefinitely, the mom would say, that's how old he would be now. So I just trust. I don't try to fit anything into my perception or my world. If I ever did that, it would be completely wrong. I honor the spirit. I work for the other side as well as this side. I work for both. That's why I am the medium. I'm the go-between. So when a woman or a man sits in front of me and someone comes through that abused them, tortured them, or they didn't like, they will try to send that spirit away. I've had that happen many times. And my stance is, listen, I'm the judge in the courtroom. You could send them away, but then there's going to be a lot of healing that still needs to be done on both your ends. And I become the voice for the other side as well. I'm the advocate for both. That's also the happy medium, finding the happy medium, which is the go-between. Find the balance, find the solution. And it's all about healing, really. I will honor their wishes if they don't want to speak to the person who abused them. Mm-hmm. But again, I have to be very delicate about, why are they showing up? What do they want? What is their plight? Why are they here?
Well,
I'm curious. I want to know too.
Oh, I can imagine, especially if you're the monkey in the middle of this whole thing. You definitely want to have some sort of an idea of what your role is and what the appropriate actions are, and right. If you're going to mediate any kind of a contract dispute. But here's the whole thing: when you say I'm the judge in this situation, a lot of people, you've got a Italian last name, you're from New York. I'd have to assume you were brought up Roman Catholic. How would you define yourself religiously these days, and how do you deal with pushback from detractors on a religious basis? Because I can see how this will get a lot of people very uncomfortable for you to see yourself as a judge in a spiritual sense at all.
Judge wasn't really the right word, because I don't judge anyone.
A mediator.
Yeah, mediate is the better word, right?
But also to have, there's a lot of different types of pictures that are painted about an afterlife that are different than what people from various faiths might see coming on there. So how do you define yourself religiously these days? And of course, deal with pushback from various angles, detractors from religious angles, because it's not one religion is the same, and even in one religion there can be tons of denominations that all see things differently too. So how's that balancing act?
Frank, you need to read my book.
Oh yes, yeah.
I wrote all about this, but I'll give you a brief. So I don't believe in organized religion. Of course, I went to Catholic school up to a young age. I was raised Catholic, turned Christian, more like non-denominational, not praying to the saints and whatnot, following Jesus. But what I've come to realize, and what I've come to know, and what my truth has come to be, is the only religion I follow is love. That's it. That is my religion. Love for humanity, love for one another. I do believe in a higher being, absolutely. I believe in a source creator. I call the creator God. I do believe in amazing masters that walk this earth, teaching the truths of love, such as Jesus, Yeshua. I do believe that. I wasn't there, but it resonates with me, and I have had a close relationship with the spirit of Yeshua when I was a young girl, very young. I was a teenager, and I would go to Bible classes, and I was very involved in the church, not the Catholic Church. It's more like a Baptist Christian church. And what I started to find, I was on this quest to learn as what I was seeing as a kid, and then when I was an adult, I started to learn that the more of a connection I had in my spiritual life, the more developed my gifts became. They were growing exponentially, my gifts. So if you put me in the church, I hate labels, by the way, you can call me a prophet, and that will very much be accepted by the church. So it's really what you call me. And I don't like the word psychic. I don't even like the word medium. So if you want to go the science route, because listen, science is proven in a lot of ways where energy cannot be created nor destroyed, but it can only change form. I like to also incorporate the science part of what I do, because I was very much about learning, how do I do this? How does anyone do this? And if consciousness cannot be created nor destroyed, how could we just even with common sense believe that we cease to exist somewhere on some kind of vibrational scale, right? And I went to priests that had turned psychic, and I'm like, wow, this guy must know the truth. And actually, his name was Frank, Father Frank.
Oh, well, there you go.
It was a cool dude. I
trust him already.
Yeah, great guy, a great guy. I went to him. I was a housewife at the time. My gifts were starting to develop. The third baby was born. I walked into this house where he was reading in this little kitchen area. He didn't know me. He didn't know my friend. We were recommended by a friend. I sat down, and he turned over a couple of playing cards, just playing cards, diamonds, spades, and I didn't know what he was looking at. And he looked at me straight in the eye, and he said, "You've been given a gift by God, my dear." So I was poker faced. I didn't want to let on. I didn't want to give him anything. And he's like, I said, really? Can you elaborate on this gift? He said, okay, hold on. He turned over a couple of more playing cards and he said, oh, you have the ability to raise your vibration and go into other worlds and bring back loving, healing messages from the people's dearly departed. That's all I needed to hear. I didn't want the reading to keep going. I had questions. He nailed it. He knew it. And I asked him how he knew it. And he said, I have been given the gift of knowledge. That's my gift. Yeah. And Father Frank was really, he put things in great perspective for me. He said, do people, at this point I was doing readings, like for free, you know?
Yeah.
He said, do people walk away from you horrified and in fear, or do they feel light and airy and healed? I said, oh my gosh, I get phone calls all the time that people could finally sleep at night. They can breathe knowing their loved ones are okay. They had proof during the reading. There's no way I would know this or that. He said in such a simplistic way, then, my dear, you are doing God's work. He said, there are those who take this gift and manipulate people and use it for their own gain. He said, but that's not you. You know, I never looked back after that. It's really all I needed to hear. And I believed that to my core, that my intentions are always pure. And I always prayed, like, gee, gosh, if this is not something I need to be doing, take it away from me. Make my phone stop ringing. I don't want this. And my phone would ring more.
It's definitely one of those turning points I can see. Almost like all right, well, let's get to work then. And then, of course, it has spawned books, it has spawned many years of work on television. For the sake of, and I know we have only a couple of minutes left here, so I really want to get a few more things in. I'd love to have you back sometime, especially if you ever come back up to New York. We'd love to have you in studio one night. Your celebrity client list is very impressive. You did a whole show just based on that. Of the work that you have done, what's your most memorable reading you've ever provided, especially to a celebrity? Because we already have a couple of your episodes set aside that we can share and rebroadcast at some point. But most memorable reading you ever did?
The one that sticks out in my mind is Roddy Piper, the wrestler.
Oh, really?
It was so deep. It was so emotional. It was so, and then he died like not that long after I read him. I remember maybe
I was going to say, how close to the, because that's a fairly recent death.
Right. It was the whole episode and meeting that I had with him was really about him losing most of his friends and not knowing why he survived. And I really could sense that part of his soul wanted to be on the other side. And sometimes you can actually will yourself to go there, which is, believe it or not, I feel like it's such a depressed guy, carried around a lot of guilt for whatever reason, and didn't feel that he should be here while all of his friends were there. So that really was impactful. That was so deep, and that really touched my heart. There was so many that was so good, healing, with a different twist. A lot of them had different twists to them.
I saw you did work with Chaz Palminteri. I'm a big fan of his. I saw him do I'm so happy that we got to go see him actually perform the one-man show of A Bronx Tale. But it was there's just a lot there. That's interesting that would be your most memorable. Are you still, real quick, just on the aside, because I have one more bigger question, is are you still called to investigate haunted homes? And if so, what is preparation for something like that all about?
Oh yeah, I'm still called for it. I'm not doing it anymore though.
Okay.
I moved away from it. I can't tell you why. I was just instructed to do so. I was help the more real life situations with real families. Not that they're not real, these hauntings and whatnot. They're very real, but they take a toll on my body. Honestly, a lot of energy. A little bit dangerous, to be honest, as well. People don't realize the danger I put myself in, and I always felt protected, which was good, and I always do my rituals. But there just comes a time where you have to just hang up that hat and just go where you're called. And I'm being called in different directions. And I just want to also, last note to let you know, never once did I ever advertise my services, ever, anywhere. This has always been word of mouth, and I never even solicited trying to get a television show. I was just placed in front of the right people, unbeknownst to me, in a group setting of a reading that I did at someone's home. And there happened to be some producers in that group where I touched their soul. So that all parlayed just from, I guess, people feeling the healing portion of my gift. And so for that, I'm very grateful. But yeah, I never tried to do anything, bigger, but I'm grateful. I'm very grateful that
just
I was
went with
able
the
to do
flow,
that.
just flowing. That's all.
That's it.
Just in the flow.
And then, I just attracted all of this. And I do believe that the celebrity part of it was really just to bring, if you want to talk about the higher reason, it was to bring awareness to the public about this work and how healing it can be. And just to let go of the misconceptions of all the woo-woo and all the evil parts of it.
Well. For example, here's another thing about the perception and what your life is like. Really getting a glimpse into what you do and how you live. We've been on the phone with each other now for just about an hour, and we're about to wrap up in just a couple of seconds. But are you able to shut out anything coming through during the time that we talk, or have you been getting voices coming in while we were talking, either something that has to do with the show or someone from the audience? I mean, there's a lot of people watching right now, but has anything come through while we've been on the air together?
So I will actually tell you no, and the reason is because I have disciplined my field. I have discipline the other side and it's no different than when you have children and you're on the phone and they're tugging at you, mommy, mommy, mommy. There's a time and a place where I do give them my attention. They cannot invade my everyday life. If one does slip through, kudos to that soul, because they've worked extra hard to get my attention when I wasn't listening. So it's a conscious act of listening. I do a shift in listening skills when I do my work. It's literally another dimension I have to zone into. But if there is someone that is just tugging at me, like that little younger man in the diner, I don't hold back the message, because that soul works so hard to get me to say it. But I have that discipline. Some mediums don't know how to shut it off. I wouldn't be in agreement to do this work. My life was very hectic, raising 3 boys and trying to have a normal life. I didn't, that was my priority. I said to God, I'm on board, but I have a few requirements here. Yeah. And I have to say, thankful that they listen.
Well, it's been great talking with you. It really has. I now that I brought up the movie Ghost before, I've been thinking about other things too. Especially, okay, here's one last question for you then. Possession. Now, not necessarily demonic possession, which I'm sure is one of those dangers of the job, especially if you're hanging out in haunted houses and things right. Are going right. But in the movies, especially Ghost, it depicts this ability of a medium to allow a disembodied spirit to have a corporeal experience, at least temporarily. So aside from listening to them, have you seen that a spirit has taken over the body of a medium, at least for a couple of minutes, to be able to be in the world for that time? Or is that just the stuff of movies?
Oh, it's not just in movies. It's very real. It's very real. There's definitely attachments. It's all energy, if you think about it. So I call it like spiritual they're spirit hitchhikers, and they literally, they will go where they resonate. If you're a drinker and they love to, indulge, they'll come around you if they can, or especially if they know you. So that's why I always say, you can't let your guard down too much with substance abuse, because that really is an invitation for them to kind of filter their way in when you're not looking. When you have your guard down. That's just one aspect of it. It happened to me. It wasn't a evil person by no means. It wound up that it was a woman who came to see me who lost her son. And when this woman left, her son attached to me, and I didn't know it. And I started having a lot of stomach problems. And what happened was, again, if you read my book, my husband is my channel. That's a whole nother story. But I learned to put my husband under altered states, and the spirit guides talked through him. And one night, my spirit guide came through and spoke through my husband in his sleeping state and told me that this little boy, my question was, why do I have these stomach issues? And they said that this little boy, mom came to see me. She was from Connecticut. I got all the details. And that he chose to stay with me because I was a mom of boys and he felt comfortable with me. And his mother was in such grief. I also learned that she passed over. And I'm like, well, why is he still with me? He said he needs to go find her, or she has to come and get him. And so I did this work with the guy to come and get him. And I don't even know who the lady was. I just know it from the spirit guide who told me. But I read so many people. And long story short, there was a time where I just felt like they reunited, and then I'm pretty good. I'm like, all right, good. So they attached to my solar plexus. Not an evil little boy, felt comfortable with me, wanted to connect to his mom, came through. I didn't feel a threat, so I probably didn't put on the heavy protection at that reading.
Just a little magnetism is all.
Yeah. So it's like does attract, and you definitely can have spiritual hitchhikers. One word of how you know that something might be with you is mostly if your mood changes in a moment's notice, out of nowhere, and you had just maybe entered the room with someone else, or you just got on a crowded train, and your mood changes all of a sudden. You're either picking up on someone else's energy or someone's trying to kind of merge into your energy.
I don't know. So, the train alone would be enough to change my mood in a drop of a hat. So
yeah.
Anyway.
Well, I gave you that visual because of the movie Ghost.
Yeah. Oh, that's right. Get off my train.
Right?
Anyway, Kim, KimTheHappyMedium.com. Lot of work for people to sift through. I hope that we get to speak again one day down the line, hopefully in studio. But if there's anything else you want to plug before you go, I have your link inside the episode description, so people know where to go to go through to everything, because you got everything here. You got your events, your stories, your books, the YouTube, the blog, everything is there. Anything you want to leave us with?
Everything is there. I am working on a third book. Probably have quite a few more books inside of me, but I'm working on a book of the ethics and dangers of mediumship.
Okay.
Because people, like everyone, wants to hang a shingle outside and call themselves a medium, and I am not about that. I take this work so seriously. I have mad respect for the spirit world and the gifts that they bestow on us, and we really have to use them with integrity, and I want to teach people how to do that.
Well, there you go. There's a lot of questions that I just asked tonight. The answers will probably be in that book as far as ethics and the dangers and the pitfalls, but it was a really wonderful ride tonight, Kim, and thank you for spending so much time with us.
Frank, thank you. You're a great interviewer. I really appreciate it. I had a blast.
Okay, great. Well, we'll keep in touch then. Have a good one, and send my best to your husband.
Thank you. I will. You take care.
Be well.
You
there
too.
She goes, everybody. Kim Russo. We are going to take a really quick break. When we come back, we're going to take some calls, go into the super chats. Then we're going to have some fun with our electronic broadcast or emergency broadcast system text messages to the world. So with that, ladies and gentlemen, just please go get yourself a refreshment. Don't go too far from the stream, because you know these intermissions they're short. All right, bye-bye.
It's intermission time, folks. Time out to press the like button. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen.
Entering, quite frankly.
Quite frankly.
Quite frankly.
Quite frankly.
Quite frankly.
Quite frankly. Quite frankly.
Quite frankly.
Quite frankly.
Quite frankly.
Quite frankly.
Quite frankly.
Quite frankly. Quite frankly.
Quite frankly.
Quite frankly.
We all support quite frankly.
Not quite.
Quite frankly.
Let's go, Brandon.
Quite frankly, in Roma, Italia.
Quite frankly. You going on Frank's show tonight?
I want to get a Coke. Can I get a Coke?
So everybody watch. Quite frankly. With Frank.
Quite frankly.
How dare you?
Okay. It's October. Getting close to settling on some things, including a coffee. A, quite frankly, coffee provider. And all that. So that's all coming up. We have a lot of different things we're going to be just flushing out the whole the merchandise section with brand new stuff. Hopefully in time for the holidays. That would be smart of us if we did. But anyhow, let's get to some super chats. Robert Sarnes, this is all on QuiteFrankly.tv, powered by Foxhole. If you have not signed up at Foxhole, which you can sign up right through the chat room, pilled.net. It's all the same thing. Pilled and Foxhole is the video provider over there on Pilled. It is as independent as it gets, and I have invested so much faith in it, and actually it's just a necessity. You don't know if it sinks, it swims, I don't know. But all I do know is that the freedom we needed to be able to build up the network, the ideas that we have for the network that are still developing, slowly but surely. We have the themes, we have very responsive programming afterwards, after each show and in the and over the weekends. But we're getting to a time when we're going to start having more live in-house programming, guest broadcasters, things like that, to continue to build up the network in the way that we envision it for the future. This is a network that is really made possible by Foxhole. You know, we tried it on D Live. They peed in our Cheerios. Theta was once an idea, but you know, by the time they took us off of that encoder, that was very complicated. Obviously, there wasn't that much time before Theta went away. This is our home, and I hope that you guys become a little bit more supportive of it, because your support and your usage is only going to drive any kind of, feedback that Matt and everybody else over there at Pill.net need to make it more stable, more responsive, and everything you ever wanted to have in a social media platform. So that's what I'm getting behind right now. Robert Sarnes on Foxhole, thank you so much. Sean Joe, thank you. Dark Heart Hemi says, shot over the bow. Mayorkas is announcing the onset of martial law. Take it from there. So you think that him saying we need to be able to stem the flow of migrants and therefore skirt some laws that's getting in the way of building this wall that everybody said was racist when Trump was putting it together, and erect some barriers, that's all because of martial law? I mean, I wouldn't, I don't put martial law out of the equation at all going forward, but the border wall is something that you say, well, the walls are there to keep you in. Well, I mean, if the country was the size of New York, then maybe that would be a big problem, but we're talking about enormous country. Is Yellowstone going to go off? I always come back to Yellowstone. Ohio Kimmy, thank you. 123SKG says, how does Kim protect herself from opening up to evil or deceptive spirits? Well, it sounds like she has some personal rituals that she goes through, as she said there toward the end. Dangers and pitfalls and all that other stuff were another category of questions that I wanted to throw out. I got to a few of them, but we only have so much time, and I think that there's always chance for her to come back in the future. And if she's here in the studio sometime, I don't know, maybe in 2024, maybe she's sitting here in the studio and we can take some calls from people and she can read people right there. That would be interesting to observe. Let's see. Stacks. Thank you so much, Stacks. Ohio Kimmy again. And Secret Weapon says, thank you, Frank. Thank you, Secret Weapon. Over on the Rumble, everybody's having a good time, just chilling. They're massaging each other. Look at that. Why are 1,400 people on Rumble massaging each other? Very weird. Very strange. But there is 1,400 or so people, or 1,300? What is that? And only 251 likes. Ladies and gentlemen, in about 30 seconds, we can get that up to 1,000. Easily. Just by everybody helping me out and hit that like button, whether it's on a phone, on a tablet, laptop, whatever it is. Please hit that like button and help me grow the show on that platform, just like you can help me on YouTube as well. Jay Semo says, the missus loved the subject tonight, Frank. Thank you. Well, you got it, Jay. Let's take a call or two. 914-200-0269. And while we do that, I'm going to quitefranklysuperchat.com. Jay Britt says, great show, great guest. Stove says, damn, if Jay Britt's dropping a tribute super chat last night isn't a great enough reason to follow up with another contribution for the best independent media in the world, what the heck is? Shout out to Frank, Frankly's, Franciscans, and of course, Jay Britt's. Thank you. There they are, shouting each other out. Jay Britt's and Stove. Gino says, much love to you, Lauren and Aurora, Francis. Great guest tonight. Keep up the great work. Well, I appreciate it. I'm going to leave the lines open for some calls, but while I do that, because it is 8:36 and we only have about 23 minutes or so left, I'm going to get to our big question from last night. And that is, if you had control of the emergency broadcast messenger system, what text message would you send the country? Okay, we'll read that in just a second. We're taking a call, 410. You're on the air. Go ahead.
No, I'm not.
410. Yes, who's this?
Oh my, this is Kate from Maryland.
Kate?
Holy, I can't believe I'm finally getting through.
How many times have you been trying to call?
I've tried you so many times. Am I doing it all right?
You're on.
In the background?
I don't hear anything in the
Can you hear me?
background. I can hear you. You sound pretty strong. There's nothing on in the background. So now the real question is, Kate, how are you going to spend the next minute of your life with me?
Oh my God. I'm so many things running through my mind, but I wanted to call because of the medium, but I have to say, before I get started, you've been on my mind so much lately. Your guests have been off the hook. The last couple of months, it's just been getting better and better. You're just amazing. What you do is so amazing. I'm so excited to get to say this to you in person.
Well, listen.
Sort of.
Hey, okay. Well, I first of all, thank you for that. And we've been doing a lot of great booking. We got a new producer over the last couple of months, Krista, that's been helping me specifically with booking, and we have been just really kicking ass with that. And I'm glad that it's hitting the right chord. That's exactly what the show needs to be. That kind of variation. So that's great. Thank you for the compliments. Okay, more. Go ahead.
Yeah. Well, you really enrich our lives. I got to say, my mind has been expanded. I was very much a normie up until about maybe 2 years ago. So you've enriched me big time. And part of that enrichment was I went to a medium a couple years ago. And I wanted to share the experience because it was really crazy. And my mom had died, and I just wanted to share that real quick. But if you don't have time,
no. Go ahead, real quick.
Okay, it's not too long, but I never thought I would ever go to a medium. But when my mom died a couple of years ago, it was devastating to our family, and I was just searching for anything that might take away the pain. And I found a medium. A friend of mine recommended it, and the medium experience was, I was so surprised. But there was one particular moment that I thought the audience might get a kick out of. So my dad, when my mom died, there's 4 of us. By the way, I'm Wendy's sister.
I thought so. I thought so. You know, just because I see the last name here. I'm like, is it? I don't know. But keep. All right. So
anyway,
go ahead.
So when her mom died, you know, there's 4 daughters and my brother. And my dad is the sweetest human being walking this earth. And he, in fact, surprised all of us because, of course, who gets the wedding ring, right? My mother was an incredible woman, and who gets the wedding ring? He couldn't decide. So he actually had 4 of them made and replicas. And he surprised all of us, and he gave us each a copy of the wedding ring. But what he did, that was just really special, is he mixed them all up. So even he didn't know who actually got the original one. He had the jeweler mix it up. So all of us got a ring, and none of us know who has the actual ring, because really it doesn't matter anyway.
Very nice. Very nice.
Anyway, so the medium, when I was in the middle of my session, she says to me, now mind you, I mean, you know, these mediums, they really don't know you, and they make a big deal about trying to remain anonymous. You don't even use your last name,
right,
whatever.
Yeah.
So throughout the session, she says, you know, there's something coming up for me. I mean, did you recently lose someone that was special to you? And I said, yes, I did. And she said, now, I'm seeing a ring. And I thought, oh, well, you know, maybe she could say that generically. And she said, but you know what's really odd about this ring is it seems to be split into 4 pieces or something. Like, why am I seeing 4 rings? And I got to tell you, that moment, it was, there's no way she could have ever known that. I mean, it was such an odd thing. It's not like I've ever heard of a father doing that for his daughters, or anyway, it was just a really special moment. And she knew about it.
Those are little things there, Kate, that would go a long way with me as well. And thank you so much for leaving it with us tonight. And I'm happy you got through. In the meantime, email me anytime, all right?
All right. Great. Thank you so much for what you do, Frank. We love you.
Thank you. And send my best to the whole family. That's a great family out there. You see, if I were, I don't know how much this would probably cost a lot more, but then again, 4 gold rings, it's going to be money one way or another. But I would have had the original ring melted down with the 3 other rings so that there's a little bit of the original ring in all 4 of the rings that were then recast from the gold. That's what I would have done, because you have to buy 3 other rings anyway. You have to buy 3 other gold rings anyway. You have the 4th. I would have them all melted down into the same kiln there, and then just recast. That would be nice. So there would be a little bit of a piece in all 4. But hey, you know, the symbolism is that's everything. All right, here's some emergency broadcast system messages. Ready? Here's the first one up. It is from Road Trip. National alert! Congratulations, Starseed. Your Nasara check for $1 trillion has been deposited into your Pleiadian bank account, accounting for the intergalactic inflation. This amounts to $700 USD. We will proceed with burning everything without a blue roof. Love, JFK Jr. Wow. Whoa. There's a lot of boxes checked off there. I'm sure that there are a lot of 64-year-old people out there that were very excited when they got that one. Okay. Here's one from Ill Discourse. That's Dan in Virginia. Says, it all starts with distrusting your government about everything. Can you imagine getting that text message? A few people here saying, oh, go watch Quite Frankly. Can you imagine that? Can you imagine if a plug for Quite Frankly got through to 200 million cell phones? Oh. And it is one mailing list you can't get off of. M3 says, we've been trying to reach you about your car's extended warranty. Here's another one. Trump won 2020 election in a landslide victory. A lot of people saying Trump won. A lot of people saying seek Jesus now. Jesus saves. A lot of Trump won. Oh, someone, the Iron Mountain Hour says boobs. But of course, written out in the old calculator language. 80085. Let's see here. This is not a test, says Leanne. Here's one, another national alert. You are now trans. A lot of people saying, don't trust the government. Your government is trying to kill you. Shower stream on Saturday night. Yes, tune into the shower stream on Saturday night. Other people saying that they're going to send a dick pic to the... Oh, no! Wake up, Covfefe. Oh, man. Oh, here's another one. This is from Nick Strodamus. National alert, we have activated the mRNA LGBTQ device implanted in your vaccine. Congratulations, you're gay now. Here's one that said Matt's gay. Can you imagine everybody on the everybody in the country at 2 p.m. yesterday? Their phone starts going off, and they just saw national alert. Matt is gay. Now, for us, we know what Matt we're talking about. For people who watch Matt Christensen's show every night, I mean, they turn that into his main URL. But that's funny. Meow. Let's party like it's 1999. Mark Swan. There's Mark Swan. I've always wanted to send nationwide peen pics. Of course. See? Mark Swan. Other people suggesting that we should rickroll the whole country. Epstein didn't kill himself. This is not a drill. I'm gay. So there's a lot of people that are coming out. There's a lot of people that are coming out. It's great. There's it. There's a little bit more there. All right, so 914-200-0269. We'll get to a little bit more of those on the other side. I would love to take some more calls from you all. 914-200-0269. If not, we're actually going to dip out in a little bit. Jay Britz just said, I had a shout out from the legend Christos Stostube himself. I can die fulfilled now. Oh, yeah. And Frank. Incredible. Let's take a call from 978. What's going on, 978? You're on the air.
Oh, holy balls. Hi, Frank.
Hello. Who is this?
This is Melissa. I'm a little bit in shock here that I just got through. I was just like, all right, I'll try.
You play your numbers. You better play your numbers tomorrow, Melissa. That? Make sure you play your lotto numbers tomorrow. You got through.
I guess so.
Okay.
I'll have to do that. We've emailed back and forth a couple times. The girls was always talking about the breath and the breathing and.
Oh yes, go ahead.
Yeah. Well, tonight your topic was right up my alley. I'm the one that also who lost the love of her life to suicide, and I figured I would just kind of chime in on part of what Kim talked about, just in terms of seeing a medium and having it be part of the healing process. Because when I went to see a medium, I did my research. There's actually a foundation called Forever Family Foundation, and they're about healing from grief, and they vet mediums, and it's a very interesting setup. But anyway, after sitting with this medium, and I had been to mediums before, it was nothing new to me, but it was the most transformative and healing experience that I've ever had, and just confirmed so many things that that I had been picking up on and feeling with my own energy. And I don't know where I would be if I hadn't had that extra step in helping me through the process, because it was such a confirmation of my personal belief that we are infinite beings. And there was absolutely no denying with all of the information that came through for me. It wasn't just information coming through. It was like exactly what she said. She's a medium. She's a go-between. We were having a conversation and an interaction with the three of us. And I know to some people who aren't open to this at all, it can sound pretty kooky, but when you experience it for yourself and it's real, you're just filled with complete and total love. That's all there is. And it changed the whole trajectory of moving forward with my life.
And you definitely got that closure that you needed, and there was nothing about it that seemed inauthentic or it was just hitting too many highly specific. And what was it about? Was it the specificity of the information coming through? Was that really the thing it is? Because obviously that would go a long way for someone like me, especially if you're not giving a lot of personal information prior to. Then again, I have a problem. If anybody had more than an hour to research me and all the talking I do on the internet, they might be able to put together some kind of a workable profile to really make it sound convincing. But it could all just be a total fraud. So, but you're not giving anybody profiles of your background when you go into this stuff. It's just right off the street.
Right, exactly. And even in your case, that it's not there would be, it's the tiny little confirmations. It's the personal things. It's your day-to-day stuff. It's things that you're thinking, that you're feeling, things that nobody knows, things that you don't put out there. Yes, it for me, it's hundreds of tiny confirmations of his presence that I was feeling, or, her. I'll give you one example. Just, well, he's laughing at you. You're opening the fridge, you're closing the fridge, you're opening the fridge, you're closing the fridge. Like, were you just what were you doing last night? Were you just little things like that. Describing my bedside table and what's with all these papers, and it's my stack of emails that I printed out between us and that I had been reading, and a description of how things are set up, and just all these very intricate little details. And then that moves on into the feeling. What's the feeling that I was having in that moment? What was I thinking? What was I, No,
I get you.
Yeah.
I get you.
It's hard to put into words.
No, I can. And yeah, like I said, that kind of specificity, that goes a long way with a lot of people. And of course, it's very hard to deny. But I'm so glad to hear about your being able to really take steps outside of that grief, because I know it could be paralyzing. And I'm happy you got through tonight, Melissa. Thank you for the call.
I am too, Frank. It's good to talk to you.
Okay, and keep in touch. I know you will.
I will indeed.
All right, bye-bye.
Right, take care.
There you go. I guess there is a Better Business Bureau for psychic mediums. The Forever Family Foundation? What'd she say? Oh, man. 8:53. We'll take one more call. Take one more. Just to see what's going on out there. 914-200-0269. And let's get to the Foxhole once again. Thank you, Witchy Poo. Thank you, Jay. Jay donated a nice little hill of gold pills there. I'm so grateful for you, Jay. Sean Joe Delona sent a ship. Says there is no one better on the airways than you, Frank. Great to finally talk to you tonight. That was Dagny. That was Kate. Thank you. Thank you, Kate. Delona, again, thank you. So there's a lot of wonderful people out there hanging out with us on a nightly basis. And I think that's it for tonight. That's it. And tomorrow is Friday, and it's going to be a good one. And I have a lot of things that we can do. A lot of things. You know, I just got to say about tomorrow night, I have Jay and Matt in the studio tomorrow night. And there's a lot of things I'll be mixing in. As you know, the shows with Jay, they speak often to misunderstood concepts about the body and how it works, which I think should be of the utmost importance to all of us. But it always comes back to institutional corruption. Because what does institutional corruption about something that has to do with human health really all about? It is a method of controlling massive populations of people by creating toxic atmospheres that produce bad health, foggy brains, pharmaceutical dependency, and more. So, aside from that, you know, we talk a lot about, you know, there'll be funny things to do tomorrow. I have a lot of little bits and you know, notes that I want to be able to incorporate with Matt and Jay. I think that they're both going to like it. But I seriously hope people don't skip those episodes with Jay on it, especially when Jay and Matt are here. They're infinitely more important than any of the headline binging that we may do on any other night. And I just invite you all to end your week with us tomorrow. And then next week, it's going to be really fantastic. It'll be a little bit short, but we're going to have some great stuff lined up for you on QuiteFrankly.tv, even during the nights that I'm away in the mountains. But on Monday night, we've got Alaric the Barbarian coming on to talk about Christopher Columbus and the Age of Exploration. Tuesday night, we have Michael Collins, Wandering Wolf. We mentioned him a couple of times last night with Will from Incredible History. He'll be in studio on Tuesday night. I don't want to, you know, I'm not going to say it. There's somebody else that might be in studio with us in November that I'm really, really hoping it happens because it's a long time coming. But that would be, but we'll see. We'll see. I'm working on all types of stuff, and I'm glad that it's paying off. So become a sponsor, ladies and gentlemen. Go to the Sponsor Us tab on QuiteFrankly.tv when you're there hanging out in the after hours. And I'd love to hear more from you. It's Throwback Thursday tonight on QFTV. It features the last night that we had a national presidential alert system featuring Dave from the X-22 report. Whoa. That was October 3rd. Oh, wait. That was October 3rd, 2018. Imagine that. So you're going to get an October 3rd, 2018 rerun with Dave from the X-22 report. It's really epic vintage at this point. And the after show only can be found on QuiteFrankly.tv, powered by Foxhole. You know what I mean? Jelly bean? Alrighty. I will talk to you soon. Good night.
I'll catch you on the flip side.
Quite frankly, is filmed before a live studio audience that are just so sweet-smelling and sexy. Man. And thank you to our super chatters, Jay Semo, all alone, all by his lonesome, on Rumble, but then Jay Britz, Stostube, Gino, the Sentinel from Theta. Well, that was from the other night, but thank you, Sentinel, again. Gino, Stostube, Jay Britz, and to all of our wonderful friends on Foxhole. I'm releasing the scratch-in right now, and I will see you all in the chat room because there's all types of great stuff about to kick off in the after hours. All right. That's it. Oh, my gosh, and thank you, Todd Fife, for a wonderful donation over there on Rockfin. I'm just seeing that right now, Todd, but I love you. I'd never leave you out, baby. Good night.
Just a little bit of a reminder, a word to the wise, if you will. Do not worry about the worries from yesterday. Leave it in the past. Move forward with confidence because there are so many new things to be experienced today. New joy to be had. So move forward, be strong, and have a great rest of your day.